Hi, Janice.
Hi, Anthony.
Cool. Today we're going to talk about 7 maintenance costs that surprise first-time homebuyers. A lot of folks will get so excited and so caught up in the expenses and costs of closing and actually completing their purchase of their first-time home. But there's also costs once you move in, right? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So when you're all excited, you're at the closing table, which, yes, we still have closing tables, and you're on your way home. The first thing that most people do is what? They stop by the hardware store and they buy new locks.
Yes.
Which is really great, but it can be kind of expensive, right?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone hasn't done this recently. There's all these fancy new locks. There's Medicos and multi-locks, and they can be a couple $100. You might think, oh yeah, $20, I'll change my locks. But then you get there and you start thinking, do I really want to buy the cheapest lock at Home Depot? This is like the security for my family. And
get in with a hairpin.
Yeah. Next, the second surprise maintenance cost for first-time home buyers. This is for the burbs. Tree trimming and removal. I didn't realize this. This is actually a pretty big deal.
Yes, and it's very expensive if you have to get rid of a tree because you have to remove the stump. You have to see what it's around it. So it is very expensive because a lot of these trees, especially out here in my area in the burbs, they're huge, they're big, they're safety hazard, and they can be very expensive to get rid of.
So my understanding is it can range from just pruning a few branches that might be hanging over your neighbor's property or maybe even hanging over your own porch and that would be maybe a couple $100. Ranging all the way to what you're talking about, maybe removing an entire tree, roots and all, stump roots and all, and that could be thousands of dollars, yeah?
Easy thousands of dollars, yes.
Wow. Okay, number 3, HVAC upkeep, and that's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. People don't really, this is very applicable in Manhattan because most units, there's not really a whole lot of central air in the city. It's mostly room by room, through wall HVAC units. You need to maintain those. They don't just exist.
You have to keep them running.
Yeah, and that includes annual or sometimes even twice a year checking and swapping out the filters, and that's so that you're getting decent air quality, right? You want to breathe, breathable air.
Good air.
But you also need to check the seals because remember, there's a hole in the wall that between your living room and the outside world. If that thing is not sealed properly at the edges, number one, that'll hurt your heating and cooling bills because it's inefficient if a lot of the heat or cool air is leaking out, but also for vermin. I mean, you want to make sure that you're not leaving any cracks for bugs or whatnot to get into the house.
Right, exactly. And that can be pretty expensive.
How is it in the burbs?
Come out. So it's the same thing. We have our HVAC systems. Once a year, they should be serviced, is what they tell you. They come out, they fix everything, but monthly we have to change our filters. That adds up.
Wow.
And another quick example, even aside from the HVAC, is like our soft water. We have soft water system in the house, and that alone is $350 a year for them to come out and put new filters in and check and make sure it's working right. And if you don't account for that gets pretty expensive. So, a couple $100 for the HVAC, a couple $100 for the soft water. It adds up.
I hadn't thought about the water. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very expensive, but you need it out here or you will lose all of your appliances very quickly because the water is so hard. So it's a necessity, but it's a very expensive necessity.
Oh, interesting. I guess we take the water in Manhattan for granted. The city water is supposed to be supposedly quite good.
Oh, really? Well, that's lovely. Yeah, we have a lot of well water. It's they call it like hard water. You can see it depositing on different things, which if you go into a house that doesn't have a soft water system, you will get all the calcium buildup and you'll need new appliances, new filters and such. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, the next one, number 4, is one that I don't want to spend too much time on because it's gross.
Disgusting.
But we're talking about pest control. So it's probably different. So in the city, you're talking about roaches, rodents, and pigeons, right? And what are you talking about in the burbs usually?
We're talking roaches, rodents, and ants.
Ants.
We get those like sugar ants and little ants. A lot of farming around here, so you do get a lot of like little mice. Yeah. Yes, that's very common.
So for the city, you want to make sure your unit is nice and sealed up, just so you don't have any sort of points of entry and egress, exit, right?
Yes.
The pigeon thing that people don't know about. If you have a lot of ledges or awnings, which a lot of buildings here do, you're basically creating stoops, and that in and of itself isn't a problem, unless you want a big pile of bird poop right under it, right?
Pigeon,
right. Also, if you have ledges or balconies, well, a lot of units in the Manhattan have balconies. Have you ever heard pigeons cooing like at 4:00 in the morning?
Yes,
it's super annoying.
Right. And I'm glad you explained about the ledges and the balconies, because I was picturing in Manhattan like pigeons just coming into your home, or, I don't think of that, of them building right outside.
That happened to my brother once. The pigeon flew into his apartment. Yeah, I couldn't imagine what I would have done. That's freaky.
Yeah.
It's like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. But yeah, so pest control, I think setting up or remediate or setting up your unit to be well insulated, a couple $100. And if you have an issue, I'm sure it could be a lot more than that.
Yes. And a lot of places you can pay, a couple bucks every few months to have them come out. But still it adds up. You're talking about a couple $100 a year. Yeah. But these are all the things that you talk about in your book about what to account for before you get into it. It's more than just the monthly mortgage. But you talk about this at length.
Yep. My book, How to Buy Your Perfect First Home, available on Amazon. I think I have a whole chapter on unexpected homeowner expenses. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Moving on. Windows. People don't think about windows. I think we all take windows for granted, but they actually have to be maintained and often not often, but sometimes even swapped out, and it can be expensive. So the reasons why this might come up, you might be thinking windows, I guess the window got cracked. That's actually not the main reason why windows have to be tended to, but rather leaks around the edges. Same thing about the insulation that we talked about with the HVAC. If your windows aren't sitting right, or if they're sort of out of alignment, you're going to lose a lot of money on heating and cooling, right? And it's not just heating and cooling. In the city, this is a bigger issue probably than the burbs. You're going to get a lot more street noise. You're going to get a lot of noise pollution, right? Yes. So you want to have those things sitting nice and snug and well insulated, and they can be expensive. It can be up to $500 to even $1,000 per window to get fixed.
Wow. Yes, that could be very expensive. You're talking about a home with 14 windows, 15 windows. Yeah.
Are there similar issues in the suburbs?
Definitely. Our windows break down over time. We have these cold winters to these extreme hot summers, and it starts to break down. Like any part of the home. And then if you lose the seal, forget it. Imagine in the winter, you're trying to heat the home, but then all the air is just coming right in. It's kind of like a no-win battle. So you have to replace them.
Number 6, unexpected maintenance costs for first-time home buyers. This is also kind of a gross one, so let's move through this one quickly.
Very quickly.
It's a 4-letter word, MOLD, mold.
Yes.
So, Janice, where does mold come from? How do you get mold?
So you get it from really water, standing water. The only thing that I only differ with this a little bit is that it shouldn't be a surprise there's mold, because if you get a home inspection out in the burbs, that's one of the major things that they're going to look for, because mold is, thousands and thousands of dollars to remediate. And once you have it, if you don't get rid of it, it will just keep getting worse. But I would say on all the inspection reports, that is one of the major things they look at.
Well, do they report on the existence of mold, or do they go further and report on the existence of conditions that might lead to mold?
Both. So when we had a really great home inspector that said, this area here, like the attic, for example, if you don't have the right system, you could be really inviting mold. So they'll say, this is something you need to look for. Your exhaust system is actually pulling in water. You're going to need to fix that, or you will get mold.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So they're really good home inspector will let you know what you're looking at. Like there's standing water in the back. You need a filtration system to get it out of there, or you're going to get it in the basement. You're going to get mold. So
that's great. That's a great tip. Get an awesome inspector who's a little more proactive, not just, hey, your roof is falling in, who sees problems before they come around. Yeah.
Exactly. You do not want a surprise. You have mold, because you are talking, extraordinarily large amount of money to fix. Yes.
All right. And the last unexpected home buyer expense or homeowner expense. This one I want to have a little fun with. It's
I like this one.
You don't think about this, but once you move into a house or a new place, you have a natural desire to spruce it up or or make it your own, or get all the latest and greatest. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
in this day and age, keeping up with the tech Joneses is kind of an expensive proposition, right? So we're not talking about having the best Christmas lights anymore. We're talking about how many Alexas do you have? I don't even know if that's what it's called. Right?
Yes, the smart boxes. I don't know what you call them.
How many do you have?
How many do I personally have?
Yes.
8. We
Wow,
have 8
I was not
Googles
expecting that.
in our home. Well, see, it actually makes perfect sense because we have a 3-story, if you include the basement. So if you think about it this way, kids are in the basement, I'm all the way in the top, someone is in the middle, you can actually broadcast on all the Googles, like, go clean your room, or that's enough of the video games, or, it tends to work really well for us.
Oh, wait, it's like a PA system as well? I didn't know that.
It is, yeah.
Oh.
So we have 8 Googles and like 6 smart lights and plugs. So you can say, of course, my Google will pick me up now, but I'll say, hey, Google, turn on the light in whatever room, and it does that for you.
Oh, all right.
It's actually pretty amazing.
I'm still not sure. So you've explained why you need 3. I don't know why it's still 8.
Right? Well, there's one in the garage because when you listen to music, you can have it all in the... I know. You can have the music playing on all the different rooms. Really, it's completely a nonsensical thing, but it's just exciting when you can just talk to somebody and ask them questions and they give you the answers right away.
And they're, between 50 to 100 each? Does that sound right to you?
Probably like 20. But you figure you add those up, then you got the lamps, because each lamp you want to turn on has to be a special bulb. And then you've got the plugs to tell it to turn on the fan. True story. We have a plug for the fan. So when you wake up in the morning, it's cold, you don't want to get out of bed, you could say, hey, Google, turn off the fan.
You live like in a robot house. I didn't realize.
It's pretty fantastic. Is it a justifiable expense? No, not at all. But, it's if you want to do that, it does start adding up. I think we're done now at this point, though.
Yeah,
Maybe.
We'll see. Well, what about...
Probably not.
We'll test that theory with some of these other items. So...
Right.
Have you heard of Nest smart thermostats?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have them?
I had it in my old house, but it was a little too smart for me. So we went back to old school where you can see the numbers.
What does too smart mean?
A lot of the times, like, I would work from home and it wouldn't pick up on my movement because I would be in a chair in one room for a few hours. So it would turn the heating system off. So next thing I know, I've been working for 6 hours. It's 14 degrees.
Wow.
You have to get up, walk around, let it see that you're actually there.
You have to wave your arms every couple of minutes.
Right. You have to set an alarm, get up, let them know that you're here. And I'm thinking, I really don't want to let the thermostat know what I'm doing all day. But it is actually a very good idea for those that, aren't home and you don't need the, heat on full blast during the day.
All right.
But they're expensive, couple $100 at minimum.
Yep, and you need them for each zone of your house, yeah? Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that can add up. And then the last one that's really popular now because it's been generating a lot of funny YouTube videos are the Ring. Have you heard about these? The Ring doorbell systems? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It's a great idea.
This one's totally foreign to somebody who's grown up in doorman buildings my whole life, but
that's true.
But yeah.
So in the burbs, it's very different because you have quite a few different. You have a lot more room between the houses. So we have, I guess, in the same line, we have a camera system. So we can see all the way around the house on the outside, which is great because you don't have a doorman or your security, and that adds up too. Oh,
so you do it not just for the front door, but the setup is typically all around your house?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
We can see all around the house, the whole way around, which is fun. I mean, we've seen deer, we've seen everything else, but we have also caught break-ins. Car break-ins is really popular around our area because you just walk around, you pull in a car door. If it's open, you take stuff out. So the security systems, we are catching all of those, and you're able to see who it is.
Get a Tesla. I heard it has a Sentry system where it'll yell at the person, in a very smart way. That's
really?
Hilarious. Yeah, I don't know.
That would be fun. Speaking of keeping up with the Joneses,
there you go.
On my
right on.
Things to afford, but yeah.
All right, I think that's it. That's 7 maintenance costs that surprise first-time home buyers. Hope you found that one helpful. Thank you, Janice, and we'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk soon.
All right, take care.